Good morning, everyone. I'm Dave. I'm a TI. Um, Holly's with me too in the background. We're here with Amber today, and she called in to save data on her phone. I know y'all know how that is, so uh, her face will not be shown. She's been a TI since 2018, but she thinks she might have been targeted since childhood. So Amber, the first question I have is, what was your life like before? I guess before you knew you were targeted, and what's it like since you knew for a fact you were targeted in 2018?
Before I knew I was targeted, I had a full-time job. I was doing really well at my job. I was there for 5 years. I was being promoted to a floor manager at a call center. And then I had a nice apartment and everything, and then I ended up losing it all from one bad decision, one bad relationship, which led me on the street being homeless. Uh, that's when my targeting started. I noticed that I was being followed wherever I went, and people were video cameraing me or recording me or taking pictures wherever I was going. So it caused a lot of anxiety and paranoia at first, not knowing what exactly was going on. To the point where now my life is very isolated. I don't have my friends like I used to have before my targeting. I have one close friend and that's it. Um, my shopping trips are very limited to maybe an hour a day instead of actually going out to enjoy the day. I can't watch TV anymore because it seems like everything I watch has some type of targeting in it. What else? What else could I say?
Uh, I'm just so before you had a job, do you have any idea why you were targeted?
I think it's because I started figuring things out that were going on around me in the city, and I think I said something to the wrong person. Potentially, I think I spoke too much truth to the wrong person, and that person had it in for me.
Right. Um,
Did she notice patterns with street
oh yeah, did you
behavior?
know when your targeting started, did you notice did you deal with any noise campaigns, or notice any patterns with your stalking, like
One headlight
one
only.
headlight, certain license plates with certain writing on it that applied to you, or people showing up around you like in a restaurant talking about stuff that applied to you and only you would know, uh, stuff like that. Did you notice any of that?
The things I noticed were, well, because now I'm on the street, I noticed things a lot. I was very vigilant and I was aware of my surroundings. I noticed a lot of cars with the one headlight, a lot of red and black cars would drive around in circles. The same cars would continue to continuously drive by me. Um,
Like if
one
you
thing
were
I do,
I spent like many years homeless targeting, and I know it's no fun at all. It's absolutely hell. Have you ever been to like sitting at a park or somewhere charging your phone? Notice certain the same people always come around sitting somewhere doing something like that.
that didn't happen until later on in my targeting. The very beginning was just very, it just seemed very, a lot of undercover cops always drove by me too for some reason.
Right.
Um, I want to say though, the one part of my targeting was they liked, I know it will sound extremely funny and weird. I know that it will, but they programmed my brain a certain way where the left side was one way and the right side was another. So when they would turn, when their car light signal to turn right, it would do something to my brain where that would register an answer in my brain.
Yeah, kind
It's
of like
like
a
they were asking
trigger.
me questions in my, yeah, like they were asking me questions and I didn't know that in my head. I didn't hear it in my head, but it would register right or no on the left.
Right,
And
right.
then, um, yeah, there's that I noticed. I noticed that because I was on the street, the same people I saw all the time. So I can't really say if they were a part of it.
Right. Like I noticed when I was in Pensacola, I would sit at the Martin Luther King Park in downtown Pensacola, and or no matter where I went to charge my phone and sit, these same dudes always showed up. Um, and they were talking about, they would say stuff like, yeah, we're gonna get him, it's just a matter of time, or this dude thinks he's part of the community police. And they would always say stuff, they'd be talking with each other where I could hear it and they would know that it would trigger me or they would say stuff about me and they just know it was bothering me bad. You know what I'm saying? Like total
Yeah,
psyops.
yeah.
So on back to what you said, so your B2K will ask you questions in your head and what like
I see if a car turns a blinker on,
it's a
it's
no.
right meant yes for me,
Yeah.
left meant no for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
sent me through, they had writing on tags. They had one headlight on, one headlight off, always.
Yeah. Um,
And also, I'll tell you the one day, I'll tell you how I knew for sure I was being targeted because up until that point, I knew that this stuff was weird. You know, like why I see certain things, and I'm like, why would I just say I wanted that and then not show up? That's kind of weird. But I was walking down the street one day and I heard, "Do you want to play a game?" And I
right.
remember saying out loud in my mouth, "No, I don't want to play a game." And then about a month later, I heard, "You are now telepathic."
Right. And that's
And
B2K.
I was like, "Well, I can't be telepathic because I'm a Christian and that's not a gift that God gave me. So, no, I'm not."
Right. What other things do they say?
In the beginning, it was, they'd ask me questions like, "What kind of music do you like?" And I'd say Christian music. But then that got turned into something very disgusting.
Right.
Um, what kind of movies do you like watching? I would say Christian programming. That got turned into something disgusting.
Right. So they
Um,
basically pervert anything you think or any answer you give them.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, let me see. So did you go through a slander campaign, do you feel like? Are you blacklisted wherever you go? Could you explain some stuff about anything you might have dealt with in that area?
Do you know who your handler is?
A smear campaign, like when they ruin your reputation.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the whole Christian programming, I realized later on in my targeting that when someone is targeted, they're going to either call you a child molester, a murderer, or you're gay or a lesbian. And at the very beginning, they were calling me a child molester at the very beginning.
Right.
And I couldn't understand why that was since I love kids. I would never hurt a kid in my entire life. And at the beginning of my programming, they would show me pictures of babies in my head.
Right.
And I would black it. My brain literally would black it out. I didn't want to see it. So I would put like a black screen in front of my brain.
I understand that completely. Uh,
And so one day they had me, I was walking down the street where I used to live, and I believe that they told me to go to the police station and do this because looking back now, I'm thinking, why would I do that? That's so illogical to do, you know? But I'm walking down the street and I ended up going to the police station, calling into the police station in front of their front door. And I said, "I want to talk to a police officer. I'm being followed." And she says, "Well, why do you think you're being followed?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, but people keep calling me a child molester in my head." And I didn't realize that I was being set up by the actual police to come and do that.
right. So what did they do after that?
Well, no cop ever showed up to talk to me face to face. But about a month later, once again I was walking down the street and a cop randomly arrested me at the corner of these two streets where a gas station was and said, "We have to bring you to the hospital." And I said, "Why is that?" And they said, "Well, we just got a call that you want to commit suicide." And I said, "Who called you?" I said, "I don't want to commit suicide or unalive myself." And he said, "Well, we were told that you were going to bang your head to get the demons out." And so I put into the hospital that day. So I don't know if that's because that had to do with psychological, like, I don't know, but
Yeah, I went through something similar to that when I was in Mississippi. My mom called me and said, "Well, the police called me and told me you're walking around uh with a knife in your hand and you're threatening to cut your throat and all this." And I said, "Mom, I'm walking around Mississippi homeless, but I'm not suicidal at all." I said, "I don't care what they say. I'm not suicidal." And she's like, "Well, they're riding around looking for you." Now, I'm convinced that she's part of my targeting. So, you know, after I got off the phone, I said, "Well, I don't care what you say, Mom. I'm not suicidal. Stop worrying and tell the police when they call again, if they really called you, that that's bullshit. You just talked to me." And she said, "Okay, well, I'm just letting you know they're riding around looking for you." And I said, "Well, that's funny. One just passed right by me." And they did. So I've experienced that same situation before, but except I don't know why they didn't stop. I guess because I didn't tell my mom. I don't know why they didn't stop that day, but it made me very nervous. I was watching out for every police car that passed me, So I know how that feels,
yeah,
definitely. So when you went to the
that's happened to me
hospital,
about 4 times.
huh?
That's happened to me 4 times.
Wow. Yeah. Uh, so when you went to the hospital, did you talk to anybody or anything like that? Because I've actually been thrown in the hospital. And sat there 3 days, didn't talk to nobody, and then they came with the paperwork saying schizophrenic. And I was like, "Well, I ain't took no medicine, I ain't talked to a nurse or nothing." And they're like, "Well, you got a taxi to the homeless shelter, and here's your paperwork. Have a nice day." Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Well, I did. So when I get sent, well, I've been in the hospital many times, more than 4 times. I was arrested 4 times to be put in the hospital. Um, and every time like I said, I didn't know that it was voices skull at that time. I
Right.
thought it was honestly, I thought it was witchcraft. I thought that they were demons or witches that were harassing me in my head. And so I said to the doctor, I'm hearing a lot of voices telling me to go kill myself or unalive myself or, whatever. And they said, "Okay, well, you have schizophrenia." And I said,
Right.
"But my whole life I've never had this. It's just like this literally just started." And they didn't want to hear the spiritual side of things, that it could be a demonic attack or, like it was just, "You have schizophrenia."
Right. Did you
And
ever
they
try to
forced me to,
go ahead?
no, go ahead.
Did you ever like me and Holly are very spiritual people. And, I, at one point, I would plead the blood of Jesus over myself. And because I've been suffering from V2K since 2015, and I didn't know I was targeted until 2018. So, I would plead the blood of Jesus over myself just to see, because I thought it was a form of witchcraft too, which there is witchcraft and technology mixed, I believe, in this program. Uh, so I still experience the voices. So that's when, I was really freaking out. So I'm just wondering if you ever tried to pray or break any spells or anything like that,
Oh,
with your,
every single day.
right.
Every day I wake up, I plead the blood over myself, and I put my full armor on every day. And then
That's
I
awesome.
rebuke any curses. I rebuke any dreams I had that night, because I haven't had one golly dream in the last 5 years probably. And I just rebuke them and I say they're not from God and I don't receive them and I renounce them. And then I cut every contract up that was ever created by a demon in my sleep, whether it was by food, drink, perversion.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed, and I've never asked this question on this show, but I've been in, I've had a lot of experiences where this actually, have you ever said prayers and you know for a fact that God came through that day?
Um, well, I've
Like you
always been
know for
very
a
close to
fact,
him, so I know.
unspeakable, like it had to be a spiritual force that saved your butt that day. Have you ever been in a situation like that?
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you what exactly it was, but many times, yeah.
Right. So these cops just get calls that you're suicidal or whatever, and they don't let you plead your
Hmm.
case or nothing?
No, literally, by the time that they walk up to me, I'm in cuffs.
Wow. Wow.
And
Yeah.
I made it. That's the thing is, when I was back in my old city, I made a big stink about what was going on. I was revealing literally everything that they were doing to me to people, and they didn't like it. They didn't like that I was a whistleblower. And yeah, I tried to warn as many people about getting stalking and voices call back where I used to live. So
Um,
it's probably why.
so did
But
you,
what I was gonna say is the medication. When I was in the hospital, they literally would not let me. I had no choice but to take the medication, and I even said to them like, I don't believe in pharmakia. I don't want to take it. Like I just don't agree with what you're doing to me. You know, like I understand that you're saying that you think I have schizophrenia, but I don't come into agreement with that diagnosis. So I don't want the medication.
right.
And they said, well, if you want to leave, you're going to take the medication.
And did you find when you took the medication you still experienced everything?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they made me take, I had to take it 3 times a day. And I was in psych ward for 4 weeks. And each time was about 3 to 4 weeks. They kept me in, and I think a lot of it has to do with the machines and the air conditioner in the mental ward. There's something that they do to that fan in the ceiling, something that alters your brain.
Right.
The white noise. There's something that does something to your brain because it's like every time I go in, I get worse when I come out. But
Did
they said that they weren't allowed to release me unless I agreed to doing the medication in a different form.
man, you're talking about the other way rather than orally, right?
Yeah. And I said, okay, well, whatever. I just said yes, just because I knew I wasn't going to do it anyway. So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Right.
Well, literally, my doctor called me and said, you have to come get your medication.
Right.
And if I didn't, then I was going to be off my social assistance.
Hmm. And
So
so
I
did you
had
end
to
up doing
take
it?
that for like a year. I had to take it for a year, and I gained 100 pounds.
Right. So they forced you to take it for a year.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice like when your targeting started or whatever, did you ever notice like you being shunned by your friends all of a sudden, your family members wouldn't talk to you all of a sudden, just like you lose all support all of a sudden at one time?
Um, no, that actually just happened recently.
Hmm.
I've never been close to my family, so for them to shun me was something normal.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying, like, did you
Um,
ever have people in your life like just stop and you're thinking to yourself, well, what have I done?
well, I've had that just started happening to me recently.
Okay.
I had a few friends, and it was kind of funny to me. I started thinking, how did I get so blessed to have so many friends as a TI? Because my whole life I never had friends as a child. I never had friends. So I thought maybe that was God's way of, blessing me. So I had friendships during this season. But then I started noticing that they kind of would not believe a word I'd say when it came to my targeting or what gang stalking was. They would call me a liar. And my friends are Christian too, so I'm thinking, how could they not think I'm telling the truth?
Like gaslight
I
you.
would send, yeah, I would send them videos and links to things, and they're like, "We have no interest in knowing what you're talking about. You should go back on your medication."
And
And
that's the
then
bad thing
I
about
started,
it. Once they get a target in this psychological, seeing psychiatrists and stuff, a lot of people will just say, "Well, look, she sees a psychiatrist, blah blah blah. It's all in her head," and that's the goal. Besides suicide or taking you out some other way, slow kill. So yeah, that's absolutely a bad thing to be involved in if you are a target is stuck in the psychological seeing psychologists and stuff. Um, but
mhm.
I understand that's the only way you can get assistance.
I'll tell you what's really funny that about my targeting is that it's based around the actual Bible. I've been a Christian my whole life, and I love God my entire life. Even in times when I wasn't living my life for Him, I still loved Him. And I realized that my targeting was based around the Bible,
Right.
and they
So
would
if you've
use
done
certain
something
scriptures.
against the Bible or sinned or something, they would punish you for it.
No, no, like they would use certain scriptures on purpose to torture me.
Could you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah. So like Psalm 27, I have my Bible in front of me right now. Psalm 27 talks about when your mother and father will abandon me. It says, although my father and mother have abandoned me, yet the Lord will take me up as his child. Um, Literally, when my targeting started, my parents abandoned me and moved away, 8 hours away. When I was homeless, they wouldn't try to help me. And that was the very first verse that they programmed in my brain was Psalm 27. And I thought it was God giving me that insight that that was the psalm I had to stand on, but they were using it to cause trauma bonding.
Right. Any
Same
other
with like,
verses?
Psalm 77. Um, well, okay, another part of this is I won't tell exactly what I did. I mean, it will be quite self-explanatory, but when I was on the street, I did some kind of stuff that I regret doing now, to make money, and um, I believe that's when my targeting got worse when I was working on the street.
Right.
But there's one part of the Bible where it talks about where a woman sells herself for a bottle of wine.
Right. So they would make that ever play that all over and over in your head as you were doing all that stuff, right?
No, the very first time that I ever worked was the first time they gave me a bottle of wine.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't think anything of it. And then literally last year I'm reading the Bible and I come to that verse and I said, "Oh my Lordy." And it hit home. Like God, this Holy Spirit was exposing to me that's what they did. They were using the Bible to torture you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like there's certain things like when my targeting is, like I said, my voice to skull is based on the Bible and my spiritual connection with God. And they like to play God in my head. They like to make me think that I'm God part of the day and then Satan the other, and then Amber's kind of just missing somewhere in the background. And I don't know if it's the gang stalkers that are talking in my head pretending to be Satan, or if they've programmed my brain to think that I'm Satan, or if it's the voice of skull that's being programmed to say these things to me. I don't know. but it's the same subliminal messages being played every 7 seconds. So I could literally say it's such a nice day out today. They'll say, "Do you want to give your soul to him?"
Wow.
Like there's no relevance to that conversation, and the whole point of it is they want to keep you engaged with that AI. So it learns everything that you think, how you respond, your rationale, your emotional state, all of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's caused real havoc in my head for sure.
Yeah, and they want that raw emotion from how you react to, because every time you react or every reaction the street theater or anything does, um, gets logged into remote neural monitors. They're trying to create a cognitive model of your brain, and they need
Yeah.
reactions to do that. Uh, you said before we started this that you experienced a lot of street theater. Could you kind of explain what kind of street theater you experienced?
Yeah, people would walk by me always wearing red and black. Um, I see a lot of, they leave gloves around wherever I go. So my favorite stores I like to go to, whether it's the grocery store, the pet store, the dollar store, they'll leave a one glove on the garbage can outside the store
And that happens constantly?
every single time.
Wow.
And when I first started seeing it, I was like, who would lose one glove? Like who, like that's so stupid. And then I researched it and it said that it's a form of control and authority. That's their way of saying that we control you. But it's also a form of witchcraft. That one glove is a symbol of witchcraft.
Right.
So I see that a lot. They like to leave things like I saw on my birthday 6 years ago, probably. I found, I think it was like maybe 10 gift cards with the amount of $50 on them with a receipt. And I figured out that it wasn't necessarily that it was a receipt and gift cards from that restaurant. What they were telling me was that they get gift cards every time that they do this to me.
Right. Was there money on the gift cards?
No, they're all empty.
Oh, okay. But it was showing, hey, we're getting paid to do this too. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Uh,
Yeah.
do you ever have you ever experienced tinnitus or frequencies in your ears?
I hear the ringing all the time on my left side of my head.
Did that start when your V2K started? I'm just
When I was a
curious.
kid, I used to get that as a kid too, and then it stopped, and then it started again with the V2K. Yeah.
Do you just by chance, I'm just curious, was your family when you were growing up, were you around any kind of occult stuff?
No, but my grandpa was a Freemason.
Yeah, see, a lot of this stuff, I tell people when you pray, you need to cancel out any genealogical curses, because they say that people, if you had people in your family that were involved in the occult, Freemasonry, anything like that, that it can get passed down. And I'm not saying this is all spiritual and witchcraft. It's definitely a spiritual warfare, but there is technology involved too. Um, but yeah, they say genealogical curses are very rampant, and people just don't realize it. So that's why I ask.
Yeah, I've already renounced the Freemasons, every lodge of the Freemason. I renounced the Illuminati, the Eastern Star. I renounced any generational sins that are known or unknown.
Was you ever with
Um,
a partner who was involved in any of this kind of stuff?
I honestly don't know if the person that I was involved in was in it or not, but I know his family, his dad probably was at some level. And some of the people I ran with, without getting into detail, I know that they definitely were.
Right. Are you aware
It
of?
wasn't close relation. They weren't close relationships. They were literally acquaintances. But figuring out the type of people that were in my life that they were all Freemasons. Yeah.
Right. Are you aware of any handler you might have had, or well, everybody gets
Yeah.
honey pots. Could you like elaborate on maybe a honey pot, what they tried to do?
Well, the handler is the one who arranges everything. They arrange the street theater, they arrange the noise campaign, they arrange everything. Are you aware of who your handler might have been?
I honestly have it narrowed down to three people. I honestly don't know which one is the main one, but I know that my dad is a part of it. I don't know to what extent he's in it, but I know that 2 Saturdays ago he made it very obvious that he doesn't want me around.
Wow.
I don't really want to talk about it because it will just trigger me that day, but
Right.
everything was literally lined up one after another that he was a part of it, and he was doing hand signals in the car the whole time, and it somehow it's like it tracks your brain to look at him. When I lived with them for a year, he used to do certain things and say, like one time well, it doesn't really matter, but he used to say things that only I would know I said in my own head.
Right. I think
So
Holly
unless,
experienced some of that with her handler.
Yeah, my handler was with the CIA. He was a Freemason. He could read my mind real time, but he did wear a silver piece in his ear. So I think they were translating to him my thoughts. But he clearly read my mind real time and images. So yeah, the
yeah,
technology is definitely there for that.
unless like he was being, yeah, that's the thing, and unless he was being told these things or me and my dad are connected psychically, I don't know, but I can tell you that me and my late sister and my dad were all born on the same day at the same time.
Wow. Like seriously?
Born on a Tuesday at 10:12. I was born in the morning. She was born at night, and he was born in the morning.
Wow. That's ironic. Yeah, Holly actually caught her handler, she noticed one day he was digging a metal piece out of his ear.
And his ear was
His
bleeding.
ear was bleeding and everything. Like he pulled this metal piece out of his ear.
Do you think it was like a chip or the actual hearing aid?
Oh, yeah, it was whatever they were using to transfer the information from my thoughts to his brain. Because anytime
Yeah,
I tested him a lot, I would think a certain thing, and he would say, "Wow, Holly, really? You really think that?" He would verbally let me know that he knew everything I was thinking. They sent him in as a honeypot. Now, I thought he was there to help me. I had no idea he was with the CIA. Not a clue, not a clue. But he ended up being a honeypot and the handler. Some type of powerful person, but he was a Freemason, and I finally got away from it. It was hell. It was hell.
I believe it. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, I had to become homeless to escape it.
Are you currently homeless now?
No, I had my own apartment,
Oh, that's awesome.
Very good.
Now, could you
and it's,
explain, if you
yeah,
can, remember like some experiences that like really freaked you out, and not just really freaked you out, just some experiences that let you know, like one day somebody came up to Holly at a gas station and said, "Holly, are you in distress yet?" Like just situations like um where you knew you were like something's not right, this is not right, this is not how a normal person life
Lives.
goes.
Like, no, kind of
um,
an example, they used to break in my house all the time. And they put LSD in my wine. I would have a glass of Merlot from time to time. They put LSD in my wine and sent me on a trip. And I did not do drugs. So that I don't even know what happened that night. I have not a clue. They broke in, they took me from my home for 3 days and implanted me from head to toe. I was knocked out consistently for 3 days. They put me back in my bed with a dress on, prepared me for work, and left me in my bed. And nobody had taken care of my cats for 3 days. It was a nightmare, but a lot of break-ins, a lot of just destruction. They murdered my cat. They put a bomb on my car. It blew my car up while I was driving it. It blew the whole front end off.
Oh my
They
goodness.
they just did horrible, horrible, unspeakable things to me for raw emotion. They wanted that raw emotion of reaction. What kind of reaction are we going to get? Let's test it out. So it was really traumatic, but a lot of heavy duty break-ins.
Yeah, and for instance, like if I would wake up under a bush or wherever I went to sleep safely that night, and I would as soon as I woke up, I'd get a text with a big smiley face that said, "David, are you ready to enjoy the last day of your life?" This happened like like different sayings like that. This happened like every morning for like 4 or 5 months. Like no matter where I was sleeping, what city I was in, or whatever, as soon as I woke up, ding, I'd get a text with a smiley face or some kind of message like that.
That's messed up.
And so,
Um, okay, well, like I was saying before, like when I just to finish off the handler situation, real quick, I do believe that my dad's one of my handlers, but I also believe that there's another man back home that is my handler, probably my main handler. Um, I say this because they even tried telling me that I killed him in my head. One day they tried telling me that I did something to him, and yet I would see him every day afterwards. Um, and he came to my home one time, and well, I'll start over. So the one time when I first met him, I was on the street, and he asked me if I wanted to go for a coffee, and I believe that the Holy Spirit said no, don't go. But something in me was fighting it, and I believe it was whatever they were doing to me that was causing me to not listen to that voice. And I ended up going for coffee, and he kidnapped me and brought me to a motel room. And then he proceeded to want to leave a large amount of a drug on the counter. And I told him to take it with him, that I didn't feel safe with it in the motel room. And once he did that, I realized that there was something in the room that might have been being recorded. After meeting him about a month later, I should have just not given him my address. I don't know why I did. I think it honestly was manipulated out of me to do it. But a month later, he ended up breaking into my home, leaving a knife on my step. I lived on the top level of a house. So you go through the front door, you turn left, and you go up a flight of stairs, and then my apartment was right there. And he left at the front of my door with a note saying, "Oh, you left your bag in my car."
wow, and it was his.
Yeah.
Wow.
He left an orange. I don't know what the name of them are, but the plastic ties, like they're straight, and he put them through a hole and he pulled them, and it like locked something in, like a. He left two of those on my front door, orange, and I found out that has to do with trafficking.
Wow.
But long story short, so I believe that he's the one that is doing my stuff even where I live now. He's giving the instructions. But as far as anything weird, other than them leaving a knife in my apartment, um, I mean, small things just to get you paranoid. I come in my apartment and I see my candle holder flipped over.
Yeah.
I find a spoon in my flour. I only had one small spoon at the time. I just moved in, and I only had one small spoon, and so I'm panicking, like, where is my spoon? Like, and it wasn't for a couple of weeks I found it in the flour, and I'm like, I didn't even use that. Why would it be in the flour?
Right. They love doing little stuff like that to just have your mind go on fear mode, panic mode.
Um, back to my dad. One time I was sitting on my bed and I heard, "Do you think you're smarter than a fifth grader?" And I just told the voice to shut up. You know what I mean? Like, what else do I say to that? And then the next day, I'm having breakfast, and he said, "So, Amber, do you think you're smarter than a fifth grader?"
Wow.
Wow.
And then just certain things like that were going on. And then one day, I was sitting in the kitchen, and I said, "You know what, Barry?" I called him by his name. I said, "You know what? I know your angle now. I know what you're about." And then he turned real evil after that. It's like the Holy Spirit was telling me to tell him, "I know who you are now." You know.
Right.
I can tell you in the last 2 weeks, I believe the Holy Spirit had me throw out about 80% of the belongings that I brought into my home. And I felt such a difference as far as the atmosphere. And they're all from him. All the items that he gave me, I threw out, and I felt such a difference in my home.
Right. Yeah, you have to be careful. Like when people give you stuff and stuff like that, especially personal stuff or stuff of theirs, that could be attached to, you know, witchcraft, stuff like that. Um, did you ever come home or did you ever find, like me, my computer was missing for 2 weeks and literally we looked up and down for it everywhere and my handler at the time was looking with me and acting all concerned. And then we come home. I used to come home every day from work and the trailer door would be wide open and it was locked when we left it. Well, we come home one day and the computer's right there where it was went missing from. And my handler was bold enough to say, "Oh, it's probably been there the whole time. We probably didn't look." Well, that was the first place I looked. Have you ever experienced anything come up missing and then being put back in its spot?
Um, Nothing on the top of my head. I mean, I know that's happened to my friend. I can't use her testimony, but that's happened to her many times where
Right.
she had she had one time her daughter, you know those shoes, the Uggs, or not the Uggs, the Crocs.
Hmm.
You could buy like charms or whatever to stick on the Crocs at the front of the Crocs.
Right.
Her daughter was wearing them one day, and all of the gems were on top of her Croc. And then they get home, and they put them away, and then she goes to wear them the next day, and her one charm is gone, missing. And she's thinking, well, where would it have gone, you know? And I guess, yeah, literally a few weeks later, the charm was back on her shoe.
Wow.
She has a lot of, she always has her stuff tampered with, like her shampoo and her body wash is always tampered with, or her food. She likes to eat organic, so whatever she buys ends up being tainted.
Wow.
But me personally, I've never noticed anything as of yet. I mean, I don't really have much for them to really mess with.
Right.
Yeah, they when I was first targeted, the first thing that was stolen was my sunglasses, my toothbrush. What else was it? It was all DNA items. Anyway, it was all DNA items, and which really freaked me out. I only had one brush, one pair of sunglasses, and one toothbrush, and they were all three gone. And I'm like, really? That is just so weird. I didn't report it to the police, but I did when the next day I took a shower to go to work, and they put some chemical in my shampoo. When I started scrubbing my hair with it, it was some kind of burning agent, and it burnt me
Yeah.
from head to toe. So bad. I almost passed out. I literally had to fall over on the side of the tub just to breathe. I couldn't get my breath. I was burning. I had a red rash all over me. Some of my hair fell out. It was some kind of burning agent. So they would put things in my shampoo. I couldn't leave anything in my house. It was always tampered with. They would come in and move my cat plates, put them in like a circle or a rectangle or any kind of geometric shapes they could figure.
Hmm.
Just things like weird things like that, just to keep me
Okay.
completely in paranoid distress mode. and they did a good job of it. I'll tell you that. It was it's a horrible program. I'm so sorry you're going through this.
You too. I feel sorry for you guys too. Thank you.
So,
It's more of a psychological thing, you know. It's not even like the actual events that occur. It's the psychological torture it does the damage.
do you experience any direct energy weapons, microwave weapons, neurological weapons that you know of? Like, do you notice drones or?
Yeah, I see drones all the time outside my apartment. Honestly, I don't know. I know for a long time I used to get zapped on my right ankle. Um, Actually, it was about 3 or 4 years. Yeah, about 4 years ago. I remember sitting in my chair, and almost every part of my body, it was like they just zapped it, like it would start vibrating uncontrollably, and then that stopped. And now I have it where it happens on my ankle or on my calf. It will like pulsate. Um, I hear more so a lot of ringing in my ear, or when I'm on the bus, sometimes I hear like a popping noise in my head,
Yeah.
like when you pop bubbles, that bubble wrap. I hear that in my head.
Yeah. So you get a lot more of V2K than anything. Sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you ever hear songs that play over and over and over?
Songs in my head or out loud.
In your head, like they'll play the same song over and over and over just to drive you crazy.
I don't hear the same song, but I will hear a part of a song, and then they'll say something that's related to witchcraft right after.
Oh, wow.
Have you
And they're
ever
always in my head.
have you ever heard like when my V2K first started, I heard certain people's voices and it sounded like they were in the same room as me. That's how it all started with me or in the area. And I would look around like for that person and they would not be nowhere around. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
A few times when it all started happening, my sister had only been passed away maybe for 3 years at that time. And I remember they had me sitting behind a dumpster at a 7-Eleven. And I remember hearing, go, go call mom. My nickname for my sister was Baby Girl. And I'd hear, go call mom, baby girl. She's waiting for you. She wants you to come home. Go call her. And I'd start to cry because I miss my sister so much. So I really thought it was my sister talking to me in my head.
Right.
Right.
And then I realized when I was more in my own mind, I realized that that's not possible for her to have talked to me in my head. She's dead. Like she's not here. It's not, it could have been a demon or a spirit. I try to rationalize it, and I'm like, I don't know. And then I've heard like my grandma talk to me before, and she's also passed away.
Wow.
So I don't really hear anyone's voices in my head. I hear it in my own voice, which is the most tormenting
Right.
because it's like they're like, so for instance, I'll say, I love you, Jesus. As soon as I say that, they start swearing or it's blasphemy. So it makes you not want to say it again.
Right. Hmm.
It's like no matter what I say, they use it in my voice. So it makes me think that I'm the one hurt. Like, but here's the thing. So I learned through this programming that we have altars. They create altars for us in our brain. And some of them will be loyal to the occult, unwillingly or willingly. And they will use one altar to be a reporter, which means that, for instance, if I were to start praying right now and try to pray in tongues or pray whatever over the situation, that altar will report back to the cult and they will have me punish me.
Right.
Has that ever happened to you guys?
No, but I've heard of altars before. I'm
Yeah,
trying.
it's they create alters, they create dissociative identity disorder is what it's called. So they'll create different identities within you. And what happens is when you create a trauma, when there is a trauma, and my whole life has basically been trauma, your brain naturally will disassociate, and that's God's way of protecting you, the core you.
Mhm.
Right, and they can
That's a gift
trigger
that He
certain
gave us.
personalities.
And what will happen is so then that fragment will break off, but then they will do another trauma to that alter so that those breaking off will break off again. So you could literally have 1,000 alters and not even know it.
Right. And did you know when they split your personalities, like they can do certain stuff to trigger each personality that they've created. I don't
Yeah,
know if you knew that.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced like where you knew they were triggering a certain personality?
Mm, well, I don't want to be graphic when I say this, but for the last 3 years, I've been celibate
Right.
by choice. And I've noticed the last couple of weeks they're trying to bring that personality or alter back to the front to make me want to desire that again.
Right.
And I know that they can make you do stuff in your sleep. And so I am very careful. I know when they're about to, and I literally wake up and I start praying against it.
Right. Because if they can ever get you to go against your celibacy, then they can play a big guilt trip in your head with a V2K.
Yeah.
Right.
Have they sent honeypot then?
Oh yeah, back to the honeypot thing. Do you know of any honeypots or anybody who's
Come in to
come in to try to build a relationship with you and at the same time behind the scenes, uh,
their part.
they're a part of it?
I honestly think that was my handler from back home.
Oh, okay.
And I turned him down. That was the thing is I realized that there was something, I didn't know that he was my handler. I didn't know about game stalking at that time. I just knew that there was a lot of really weird stuff going on around me. But um, I remember the last time I spoke to him, face to face, anyways. Well, no, it wasn't the last time, but to me, I thought it was going to be the last time. He came. I heard a voice in my head, and I heard, "Oh, he's just coming up the road. He'll be at your house in a minute." And I'm thinking, who is talking to me in my head? Like, and he literally turned right onto my street and was about to turn into my driveway. And I opened up my window facing the road, and I started telling him to get off my property, as I knew he was a dirty cop, that I didn't want him anywhere around me. And I won't tell you what I said, but I said some choice words.
Right.
And he ended up going to the parking lot and slamming his trunk, which caused his back window to smash. Now, I know logically that's not possible for that to have happened, so there had to have been a crack already in the window, or he did it maliciously or meticulously to make it look like just one swipe of his trunk, it broke his back window. But I think that was one way of the programming. And then I broke it off with him because I just didn't want anything to do with him. And then one day, I'm going to say it was about a year later, maybe, I'm in a different city and I'm walking down the street and there he is waiting for me at the side of a building. And I thought, that's kind of weird that I see him. Well, stupid me, I asked him if he wants a coffee. He said he was homeless, so I asked him, would you like a coffee? And we sit down in a park, and he started saying things like, oh, my dad said this and whatever, but what he was really talking about was the devil. And he was planting something in my head. And he let me know that day that he was the Reaper, and his name was Red.
Wow.
Yeah. And that
Mm,
was the
that-
last time I saw him.
wow. So you really go through a lot of psyops that you're targeting. And that's really about all the questions. I'll have one more question, but I was just going to say, is there anything else you want to talk about or um, tell my viewers that's happened? Any experiences you want to share before we go?
Um, all I really want to say is that if they don't already know Jesus Christ, to come to him and get to know him now, that he's waiting for them, and that don't ever allow your targeting to ever think that God doesn't love you, because he does. And they're going to use whatever they can to make them think that he doesn't, or that it's their fault. And just to try to have faith and to see the other side of this, that it's actually a gift of what's going on. It's a blessing for us. We're being refined in the fire. That's it.
And I think that's a good statement. And I if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here, and I know that for a fact. And uh I definitely think that this program will make you grateful for the little things, where most people are not even grateful. Some things, you find yourself being thankful for a meal, especially if you've been homeless, a meal, or sometimes you wake up in the morning, you're like, man, I'm so glad I got a place to stay. And most people don't even think about that stuff. It just makes you recognize more stuff you're grateful for, because, good moments rarely happen. So when they do, you're grateful. Um, and I really think I don't try to push my beliefs on anybody, but I really think that you're exactly right that instead of just sitting around waiting for a lawsuit to happen or somebody to stop this, it's better to find ways to deal with it spiritually. Um, Supplements, exercise, because there are some targets that are waiting around thinking, oh, this is going to stop. I just need to bide my time and just wait, and it'll stop one day, and don't take no action, like spiritually, physically, or anything like that. And I really think that hurts a lot of targets, because truthfully, I really don't think that this ends at all. I think it's only going to end up rolling out on the whole world. That's just my opinion. So I really think that targets should find ways to deal with it the best they can. My last question is, oh yeah, do you believe it's going to end? And then I have one
Okay,
question.
that's the tough part for me, because I ask this every day to God, every day, when is it going to stop? And the one thing I keep being reminded is that it doesn't mean, like, I mean, I don't know. I can't say if it's going to stop. I don't know. Faith tells me that you have to have hope and believe that it will. At the same time, that even if it doesn't, that it's still a learning situation. There's still something we can gain from this situation.
Right.
Um, I mean, I use my faith for everything. So the word says in Isaiah 54:17 that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Well, this is a weapon being formed against me, but God says it won't prosper. So that tells me that it's not going to last forever. And he also says that he's going to show vengeance on our enemies, and he's going to show justice for those that were wrongfully persecuted.
All right.
Right?
And
So
my,
I guess if you use the Bible, then yes, it will end. But if you use human logic, it probably will never end. No.
right. And I guess you done answered my last question. My last question was going to be, what would be your advice to any target? But I think you answered that with the Christ thing. Um, unfortunately, and I was one of them targets. Unfortunately, some targets have come to the theory, they've known God, they've been close to God, and then this targeting happens. And so they leave God because they're like, well, if God was real, this wouldn't happen. And I hope if any of them targets are listening, they will rethink and look at what Job went through, the disciples went through. None
Yeah.
of Jesus's followers had it easy at all if you look at it. And God's
Yeah.
said, if the world hates me, it'll hate you. So anyway, I really thank you for coming on here and giving your testimony. Be sure to look in the comments in case somebody has questions or wants to ask you anything or
For
comment.
sure.
I'm gonna stop the recording right now, I really thank you for coming out again. Then we can say our goodbyes.
Thank you.
Thank you.